So friends, what should we make of the fact that a Georgia state grand jury said 21 additional people should be indicted, but they haven't been? Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, take it from this old prosecutor. Generally, when a grand jury assesses all of the evidence during the course of a grand jury investigation and concludes that somebody should be indicted, usually that somebody is indicted. So why is it that 21 of the people the Georgia grand jury recommended should be indicted haven't been? First of all, here's some of the new reporting. This from PBS. Headline: Georgia grand jury recommended charges for 21 additional Trump allies in election case. A report reveals a special grand jury in Georgia recommended charges for twice as many people than the 19 ultimately indicted for efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis has not brought charges against the 21 others named in the report, including 3 senators and a former senior White House official. So friends, the burning question is, why aren't those 21 people like Senator Lindsey Graham and disgraced former General Mike Flynn, why aren't they indicted? Well, let's go to a quick Team Justice Law School class and talk about the 3 most likely reasons those 21 people are not indicted, at least not yet. Reason number 1, in the Georgia State RICO indictment, in which 19 people were indicted, 19 co-conspirators, 19 criminal associates, including Donald Trump and Mark Meadows, John Eastman, Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, Jeffrey Clark, Jenna Ellis, lots of fake electors, and others. In that indictment, there are 30 unnamed, unindicted co-conspirators. 30 people who have some criminal culpability, who were part of this conspiracy, who committed crimes, but who are not indicted, at least not in that first RICO indictment. So here is, I think, one of the leading reasons why the 21 people that the grand jury said should be indicted have not been indicted. Many of them might be those unnamed, unindicted co-conspirators in the big RICO indictment that was handed down. Some of those people, for example, may have been granted immunity, and they may be an unindicted co-conspirator. If you're granted immunity, you're not indicted, even though you were part of the conspiracy. Some of them might be formal cooperating witnesses. What do I mean by that? Well, if some of those 21 people decided to cut their losses, plead guilty to their crimes, and agree to cooperate against the other co-conspirators, the prosecutors could have cut deals with them, plead guilty to a lesser charge and agree to testify truthfully about the crimes of others. And they may also be some of those unindicted co-conspirators, those 30 unnamed co-conspirators in the RICO indictment. So that may account for lots of the 21 who the grand jury said should be indicted. There was enough evidence to indict them, but they are not yet indicted. Well, they may make up part of the 30 unindicted co-conspirators in the RICO indictment. That is possibility number 1. Possibility number 2, those 21 people that the grand jury said there is enough evidence to indict them. I think we have to talk about the different evidentiary burdens of proof to indict somebody and to convict them at trial. To indict somebody, it's a relatively low evidentiary standard, probable cause. It is the same evidentiary standard to issue a search warrant, to issue an arrest warrant, and to indict somebody. Probable cause. But as you probably know, to convict somebody at trial, it's the mother of all burdens of proof, proof beyond a reasonable doubt, the highest burden of proof known to the criminal law. So, District Attorney Willis might have looked at these 21 people and might have said, you know, I appreciate that the grand jury believes there's probable cause to indict them for crimes, but I have to be able to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And let me tell you, there is a mile of evidentiary daylight between those two standards, probable cause and proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And DA Willis might have said, you know, I'm not so sure I have the evidence that will meet that burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So maybe Fani Willis decided to decline to indict some of those 21 because there were some evidentiary shortfalls in her opinion. That's reason number 2. That's a possibility. Reason number 3, which frankly I like the most, is that a second indictment is coming in Georgia. There are 21 people. Now remember, 19 were indicted. So the grand jury said these 40 should be indicted. There's enough evidence to indict these 40 people. And in the first indictment, the RICO indictment, which is now public, we've seen it, 19 of them were indicted. 21 were not. Might there be a second indictment on the way, indicting some or all of the remaining 21, at least those suspects who either are not cooperating witnesses, were not granted immunity such that they are unindicted co-conspirators in the first indictment, or people that DA Willis believed maybe there wasn't enough evidence to bring charges. It really feels like a second indictment should be coming, and it should charge some of those 21 additional individuals the grand jury said there's enough evidence to indict. And think about this. There's actually a parallel between that approach and what Special Counsel Jack Smith is doing in his prosecution of Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. for Trump's attempt to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. Remember the first indictment Jack Smith had the grand jury issue in D.C. in federal court? Donald Trump is the only one indicted. And yet we know that there are 6 unindicted co-conspirators in that first Trump indictment. They haven't been charged yet, but we kind of know who they are because they're identified in substance, right? Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell, John Eastman, Kenneth Chesebro, Jeffrey Clark, and there's a 6th one that I think it's an open question as to who it might be. But there was obviously enough evidence to indict those people, but they haven't been indicted, at least not in the first Trump indictment. Now, do I believe they will be indicted in a second or subsequent indictment? You bet, because I cannot imagine Special Counsel Jack Smith announcing to the American people in that first Trump indictment, by the way, folks, these 6 additional individuals are co-conspirators with Donald Trump. They committed crimes as part of Donald Trump's corrupt scheme to overturn the election's results. I can't imagine Jack Smith would announce that to us and then just say, but I'm not going to indict them. I'm not going to hold them accountable. So in D.C., it sure looks like there was one indictment with Trump, and then there likely will be another indictment with some of those unindicted co-conspirators. Feels like the same thing might be going on down in Georgia. One indictment issued with 19 of the 40 people that the grand jury said committed crimes, and a second indictment may very well be on the way with at least some of the remaining 21. That would make perfect sense to me. And I do think those are the 3 leading contenders as to why there are these 21 people who the grand jury announced, yeah, we believe they committed crimes. We believe they should be indicted. but they haven't been indicted yet. It is pretty important that they ultimately be held accountable, and given everything we've seen of District Attorney Willis, as I have said, I don't think she owns a pair of kid gloves. So I think at the end of the day, she will do everything she can to hold accountable everyone that the evidence suggests committed crimes in violation of Georgia state law. And that is as it should be. Because justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.